Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 78 of 2019. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at The Odds Breakers and follow us on social media / The Odds Breakers. In this episode, my friends, we're going to talk about
playoffs. Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
And we're going to talk about a little college football bowl games, the rest of the bowl games, get that done, as well as NFL playoffs. So this episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag for a 50%, actually still 100% sign-up bonus. Please visit Jazz Sports. Use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the podcast. We would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $17.99 a month, you can have my plays and premium plays before the line moves. Lots of college basketball handicapping coming up. For $2 more, you can get all that, become a patron subscriber, get the podcast a little early, and if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com to become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we have a lot to recap from this past weekend of football. Week 17 for the NFL, and of course, the college football playoffs. And what comes to your mind, unfortunately, when you think of the college football playoffs, is that the talk is about the officiating again. I mean, I don't know why it always has to be like this, and it's just because the precedent that the NFL set with their terrible rules filters down into college football. I mean, it shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't be how the officials influence the game. It shouldn't. I was listening to Chicago sports radio this morning, and I don't think any of them had any skin in the game. These guys are from all over the place, but they were talking about how egregious the officiating was. And it shouldn't be like this. It ruins the sport. It completely ruins it. But either way, I'm going to give you my take on the situation. Ohio State fans, just let you know, I'm going to say some good things that will probably make you feel justified, and then I'm going to say some bad things as well that might piss you off. So just let you know when I talk about that, there's going to be two sides to this coin here. Now, I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, but I really don't care. I mean, I believe it to be the truth, so I wanted to share that with everybody. When I say the officials are one-sided or appropriating a game or fixing something or keeping it even or rigging or whatever I say, I don't mean that they are getting paid by somebody extra to cheat for one side. I mean, they will go to jail for that for a long time. I mean, look at what happened to Donahue in the NBA. At least I hope it's not that, but I don't think that is. A lot of people think that Vegas spoke in and came in and changed the game. It's not Vegas ever. It's not. Vegas wants it to be clean so they can run their business. And when I say Vegas, I mean all the sports books in the world. If anybody wants a clean sport, it's Vegas. That's another stupid fallacy that people think of. The truth is, the culprit is the networks in themselves. I mean, look at this situation here when it came to this game. You have SEC officials on an ESPN telecast. Well, who do you think owns the ACC network? And who do you think owns the SEC network? You should look that up. I mean, in the Clemson-Ohio State game, having SEC refs in this game is like having the defendant's mother as the main character witness in a court of law. You know, I mean, here's what it is. These officials have to be asked by the conferences to come back and officiate games. And if they don't keep a game close that should, benefit the networks, they might not be asked to officiate again, which it gives them a significant interest in the side of this game. But it happens all the time. It happens within smaller conferences too. Look when Wichita State played Michigan a long time ago, 9 years ago or so, being like the lowest rated NCAA tournament championship game. It cost the networks millions. So, in fear of not being hired again, they might make a decision. They might make a judgment to try to make a close game. Okay? So, and it's never going to be open mouth stuff. All right? It's always stuff on the DL, on the down low. All right? So, there's motivation with everybody. People are only human, but yet people like to make money. So, whether or not you believe that is fine, but the truth is, what I've always learned is to always follow the money. Look at it this way. Back in the 1930s, in a place called Germany, if you spoke out against your country, you will be killed. They'll take all your money and everything just for giving your opinion. That's how it happens actually today in some places like China and North Korea. Strict communist attitude, right? Well, what does the NFL and the NCAA do when a coach feels he was wronged and speaks up against the officiating? He's fined thousands of dollars for standing up to himself and speaking what he believes. I'm just going to leave it at that. But ask yourself, when there's millions of dollars involved in something, do you think there could be influence on the integrity of these games? I digress. As far as the hype of the games, everything leading up to it, it was great. You know, the atmosphere was packed at both stadiums, Atlanta and Glendale, Arizona, State Farm Stadium. It was fantastic, but unfortunately, we're going to talk a little bit about the targeting. Now, just to let you know, according to the definition of the rule, that was targeting. That was absolutely targeting. The problem is, when is that rule applied, and why isn't it applied a lot more? So that I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about the LSU versus Oklahoma game. And I guess, unfortunately, the refs did have a piece of that as well. Now, don't get me wrong. We took Oklahoma and sent it out at plus 14. It went skyrocketing back down to plus 11. I think a lot of people were waiting for 14 and hit it. And it went back down to 11, closed at about 12. But had line value, obviously, but apparently it didn't matter. That missed pass interference, how bad that was, I don't think it affects the spread. I think LSU probably wins by over 14 anyway. I think that was just a bad play. But what I will say is that was, how do you miss something that obvious that you see from multiple angles? And there's officials in multiple places. Now, the official that was standing behind that, he didn't see it. But I saw on the replay that the other ones were looking in that direction, and they should have bailed that guy out. But the strange thing about it is they didn't ever give a makeup call. When officials completely blow things, and this happens all the time in basketball, they'll call some crap foul on the other side, and it's a makeup call. Well, Oklahoma never got that. So at the same time, you know, you can tell who was the better team, but it really switched momentum, and you wonder if it was going to be a little bit closer for a while in that game. And so, I mean, it's another big thing that was talked about, and Twitter blew up when that happened. How can you not officiate this properly? After what happened to the Saints last year, how do you not fix these problems? Okay. Well, either way, I'm glad Joe Burrow was the story there because he is a competitor. He never ceases to amaze me. The man is magical. It's like his brain is locked with his receiver's brain. He thinks something, they know what he's thinking, they go in position. Perfect throws, perfect completions. This offense is possibly the best I've ever seen. Ohio State's is very close, but Joe Burrow and LSU just has that little extra above them this year. So that's what I think, in my opinion. So great job for LSU. They deserve to be into the next level. Now, as far as the Clemson versus Ohio State game, being on Ohio State's, backing up what they said, yes, the officials influenced that game and they changed the outcome of that game. Now, no one can say that Clemson wouldn't have won and just scored like 30 points or 20 or whatever while Ohio State was up, because you never know what's going to happen when a team's down. But at the same time, by numbers, raw numbers, without those calls, Ohio State wins this game by at least 7 points. I think they win this game by 7 to 17 points if you take away those two calls. Now, was it targeting? Yes. But here is the problem with that targeting. The guy was making a normal tackle and the quarterback ducked, right? Which made it look like targeting helmet to helmet. Now, if you go by definition, which I did read a little bit, targeting doesn't have to be helmet to helmet. It just has to be launching yourself with your head down, crown of your helmet, and hitting someone. Well, the truth is that he was going down. Then he goes a little lower when Lawrence goes down to protect himself. It's just a reaction, like you brace yourself before you get in a car accident, or if you're about to fall off your bike or something, you just automatically brace yourself. That's what it is, and that's why the defense had no chance in that position. But not only that, that tackle happens in over 70% of actual tackles above the waist in every single game. What you saw there is 50 flags a game. It's just that the refs don't throw. You could justify targeting on over 50 calls per game, and it would look just like what you saw with Ohio State. The problem with it is the officials can use it to justify their motive or keeping a game close. I think that's exactly what you saw. There was a blowout in the game before. The officials wanted to keep Clemson in this game and decided to throw the flag. But the truth is, if you record this game, I don't know, look at the first tackle that Clemson had in the second half. 2 guys speared Ohio State's guy with their helmet. No targeting call. You don't think about it unless you see a flag, and then you scratch your head and be like, oh yeah, that's targeting. Well, do me a favor, guys out there, listeners, do me a favor. The next football game you watch, I don't care if it's NFL, I don't care if it's college. Watch some of the tackles with the safeties, linebackers, whatever, running up to tackle running back or quarterback. Look at it and think to yourself how much different that was than Ohio State. Because when Sean Wade did it, it looked like every single tackle above the waist that I see in football constantly. So please do that. Feel free to tweet us at the Oddsbreakers and let me know what you think, and count the times it happens maybe, because you're going to see a ton of them in the next football game you watch. Absolute ton of them. Because your head is connected to your shoulders. There's no way you can tackle somebody without targeting, according to the definition of targeting. So officials use it as an excuse to adjust games. Now, Ohio State did blow it at the end. I mean, they still could have won it, but they shouldn't have been in that position. They should have been up by a lot of points by then. Now, moving into the second call, That catch and fumble had more football moves in it than a Deion Sanders punt return. Okay? I mean, there was 4 steps. The guy moves his arms to the left with the football. The guy moves his arms to the right with football, looks left, starts a turn. Then he moves his arms to the left with the football and turns again. I looked at it at real speed, half speed. I would have called half of that. If half of that he fumbled, that would have been a catch. And the fact that they overturned it is very, very strange to me. There was a lot of people that wanted Clemson in this game. This was an ESPN game, so there is a ton of conspiracy theories out there. All right? Now, I'm not going to start one and say that's exactly what it was because I won't know for sure. But I'll tell you, if I had gun to the head type situation, I would, and I had to pick, is there bias or is there not? I would certainly go with bias. It ruined the whole game for what it was, a great football game. It ruined it. It ruined it for Ohio State. It kind of ruined it for just being a football fan because you don't even know what to expect. So, in my opinion, Ohio State was cheated out of 2 major places in this game. But at the same time, they screwed up and threw an interception at the end. And why the hell did you do that? You had a minute left. You had a timeout left. You had plenty of time to score, get out of bounds, get a timeout, and you kind of rushed it there. That's kind of where Ryan Day was a little bit green as a coach. He rushed it. You know, I'm not sure if Urban Meyer rushed it. Urban Meyer would probably go have a nervous breakdown first, the way he looked on the field. But now the one thing I'm going to say is that even though the officials factored Ohio State into that position where they had to win it or blow it, you can't feel too sorry for Ohio State because if you watched Big Ten games, Ohio State gets the same nod and lean from the officials. I'm sorry, they do. And maybe, I don't know what it is, but Jim Delaney's somehow very close to that program. He likes them. A lot of the commentators went to Ohio State. I don't need to mention their names, but in football and in basketball, they're Ohio State fans. Some of them played for Ohio State. They seem to get the nod from the officiating, and that second half of the Big Ten championship, I'm sorry. According to a lot of fans out there, they didn't get any penalties for completely grabbing, cornerbacks grabbing, defensive holding, offensive line holding at all. So it's almost kind of like what comes around goes around. The unfortunate thing is that's good enough to get you, help you into a Big Ten championship, but not a national championship when the same exact thing happens against you for somebody else's motives.
You suck!
Let's get into the NFL a little bit, and I gotta tell you, the Bears could barely beat a second and third string Vikings defense, and that brought them to 8-8, and they celebrated, and I wanted to freaking throw up. It was just, you should not be celebrating that. You missed the playoffs. You went from 12-4 and 8-8, and a lot of people are trying to defend Mitch on all these Bears sites and everything. So Mitch threw for 3,100 some yards, and last year he threw for 3,200 some yards. So people are like, oh, he was just like last year. It's the rest of the Bears. What they don't see, and this is how people use statistics to trick you. They post, Mitch has a 64% completion percentage. That's about what Drew Brees has. So looking at stats, you would think that they're equal quarterbacks, but it doesn't show that Mitch Trubisky's average pass length is about 3 or 5 yards, where Drew Brees is throwing it down the field, creating giant plays and making clutch plays. That's how people use stats to try to fool you. So all the Mitch backers are saying that. But one thing I will say, different from last year, is that in 2018, he played 2 less games. He played 14 games. He had 421 rushing yards. That is part of the reason why he was a really good quarterback, because he knew when to run and knew when to get the first down. This year he didn't run, played 1 extra game, 15 total games, and only had 193 rushing yards. So with Mitch, it doesn't look like he's all that quarterback that can be coordinated. He can't throw it really well down the field. He's got the size, he's got the arm strength, he's got the speed. I think the best thing the Bears can do with him, since he has such a team-friendly contract, is bring in some competition, maybe late draft pick, maybe someone in free agency like a Dalton or whatever, Mariota or something, and then have them compete a little bit. But Mitch Trubisky should have one read, one check down, and take off with his feet every single freaking time, because otherwise he's just going to get flattened and suck and then throw picks and fumble. I mean, that's just how good he is. Now, if he can eventually get better and really understand the offense, that's great. Then I'm okay with him sitting in the pocket longer. But according to these stats, it shows me he really lost his legs this year, and that very much hurt the Bears' offense. As a matter of fact, it is kind of shocking the Bears were 8-8 with such a terrible offense. You would have thought that this would have been a 5 or 6 win team, but it kind of shows you that the defense was still pretty good. And remember, the Bears did play good, tough teams like the Saints, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Eagles, Cowboys, Packers twice, Vikings twice, playoff teams. So they did have a pretty hard schedule. I got to tell you, though, the more disappointing team than the Chicago Bears is probably the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they played the Baltimore Ravens third string and second string, third string, whatever, and couldn't even come close to beating them. They lost 28-10. As a matter of fact, I had the under 37 in this damn game, and it didn't hit because of a block punt touchdown and a safety all happening in the fourth quarter, giving the Ravens 9 points to go 1 point over the total. The Steelers were so bad that their offense scored for the Ravens. I mean, this team, you would think, should get in the playoffs no matter what, with how good the recruiting's been, with how good the players are, how good their offensive line is. Their quarterbacks are just not that good. And Mason Rudolph, I had him as a top guy coming in. I was wrong. He is not going to be a starter in this league. Neither is Hodges. So I wonder what they're going to do to try to find a better quarterback. But apparently Big Ben better play a couple more years because they're not exactly in position to draft Joe Burrow, are they? Jaguars beat the Colts. That wasn't too big of a surprise to me. A lot of variance in that game. I didn't play it. We went 4-3-1 in the NFL. Nice profitable day. And we were profitable this whole weekend, actually. College football and basketball was profitable, which was great. The Cardinals pushed. I took them late at +7. Hit my teaser. We are now 7-5 for teasers throughout the season. Gave that out on our Facebook site. The other interesting game was the Texans against the Titans. And I'll tell you, Bill O'Brien is a freaking liar because he said he was going to be playing his starters. And later in the week, people figured it out and didn't. And I took a piece of it, the +6, and went back down to 3. And then it closed at like 9 or 10 when people figured out how full of shit he is. But either way, the Titans took care of business against their second and third string, and was able to obviously capitalize. And obviously we all know Ryan Tannehill.
So hot right now.
He just keeps chucking that ball, and that resurgence of him has been fantastic. I got to tell you, give him a lot of props for bringing this team into the playoffs here. Our biggest bet, the Jets beating the Bills. That was a no-brainer. It was our 4-star play. Jets, I mean, the Bills had no reason to start anybody. I don't even know how the hell the Jets weren't favored in that game. Blew my mind. So, made it a 4-star play for us. 5 stars the max, and 5-star. I rarely ever play a 5-star play. A lot of people throw them out like 5%ers a lot, but it's just not my style. The Bengals beat the Browns, and it got Freddie Kitchens fired. And we'll have to bring someone else into the kitchen this year because the Browns really underperformed. 6-10. They're kind of like a Chicago Bears type story, except at least the Bears were actually good one year and made the playoffs. The Browns just turned back into the Browns. I wonder if they can bring someone in that's going to make some noise. You would wonder if a Lincoln Riley might get brought up. He must be sick of losing in the playoffs by now, and he has the opportunity of a lifetime to coach in the NFL for a big fat contract. So I would think that Lincoln Riley should take a shot at it personally. Him and Baker reunited, high-powered type offense. You got to love that. The Dolphins obviously tied my season win total at plus money at 5 and under that I took super early. I couldn't believe that BS. The Patriots, the Patriots, a lot of people kind of hurt, half-assing it. Fitzmagic played like Fitzmagic and gave them a great thing to think about throughout the offseason. I got to tell you, Fitzmagic is should be a highly paid quarterback next year for the Dolphins. The way he played, and without him, this team is 2 wins max, maybe 1. But it was all him really this year to bring this team to 5 wins. This was the worst team that I've seen that around the quarterback position, in my opinion. But the worst team is the Bengals, and they actually did beat the Browns, so that's how bad it ended up for the Cleveland Browns. The Green Bay Packers had a scare at Detroit, and I seen something interesting on Facebook. Somebody posted a Packers Green Bay group thing that they said this is the worst 3-3 team that they've ever seen. Well, statistically that might be true, but you shouldn't be that upset about it as a Packer fan. You have the number 2 seed here. You're literally even in yards per play, and you're going to get a bye week. And I got to tell you right now, hurts to say this, the Packers could easily make it to the Super Bowl, and the reason that is because everything's kind of set up perfectly for them. You know, the Packers are going to get the Saints at home, and they're going to be beat up, and they're going to be in a tough spot against Green Bay. And you have to remember, Aaron Rodgers and their home field advantage is a lot more than what a lot of teams can expect. And they have some big receivers there with Devontae Adams, obviously, Valdez-Scantling. They're getting more people involved. You know, the Packers, good running game now. They very well could make the Super Bowl here. And who knows if they could win it, but they're in a great position. And if the Niners do win, Rodgers going back there, that is his hometown where he played at Cal. Now, they did get their asses kicked there before this year, but, you know, Rodgers knows that area well. And, you know, fool me once the first time, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We'll see if the Packers can, you know, learn from that game. And, you know, San Fran's going to be beat up. So just let you know, the Packers are kind of a sneaky little horse right there. You think that they're the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFC. Well, they might be the ones that represent the Super Bowl. All right. Well, that's enough of that. Before, I forgot to mention that the podcast is going to be going to once per week starting next week. We'll talk a little bit about the college football championship. It won't be till next Thursday night / Friday morning where it airs. It's all going to be about your weekend college basketball games, Friday, Saturday, and some Sunday games. Saturday is usually the focus, just like it was last year. And this weekend, for some of these final bowl games, January 3rd, January 4th, January 6th, I'm actually going to be gone. I'm going to be in Disneyland with my wife and kids. And I got to tell you, I held off Disneyland as long as I possibly could. I pushed and pushed away, but eventually I got beat down and had to do it. I'm glad it's not during any major college games. I'm glad it's not during the January 1st games. It's from the 3rd to the 6th I'm going, so I'm totally cool with that. But, you know, sometimes you got to give a little to get a little, if you know what I'm saying.
Unreal.
All right, let's get into our next segment where we talk about the college football bowl games from January 2nd through January 6th, and we'll mention the national championship. As you know, all the other games were from previous podcasts, so if you would like to hear about our handicaps on those, please feel free to go back to episodes 77, 76, and 75 of 2019. All right, January 2nd, we have the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl, Boston College versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati laying 7, over-unders 55 in Birmingham, Alabama. This spread opened up rather small for most power ratings at minus 4.5 here. And that's when I made the play. So we sent out a premium play in the Bearcats, and it's up to 7. But Boston College actually had a pretty decent finish to their season, beating Pittsburgh. And that got them bowl eligible. Sometimes you see teams will make that huge run, but that doesn't mean they're going to play great in their bowl game. This team's really hasn't beaten anybody with a pulse here, this Boston College Eagles team. And A.J. Dillon is sitting out this game, sending a bad message to the team. The Eagles are 6-6 with a net yards per play at minus 0.5. Cincinnati, on the other hand, does not have a good offense, but they have a very solid defense, and they have a plus 0.3 net yards per play. So since he's done, they've done well. They beat some big names, Central Florida, UCLA. And as long as they're not playing a team like Memphis or Ohio State, they looked really good this year. So I think even at minus 7, the spread is still a bit low. I wouldn't take it at 7.5. So if my recommendation is Cincinnati minus 7 for 1 star. And I like the value that you're getting there. I think the American Athletic Conference was just as good as the ACC minus Clemson.
Pal, I'll kiss your boots if you can do it. But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo!
The Tax Slayer Bowl. Gator Bowl, actually. Indiana versus Tennessee. Tennessee laying about 1.52-ish over under 52.5 in Jacksonville, Florida. I don't see many power ratings with Tennessee better than Indiana, okay? But they certainly finished their season better. Indiana lost 2 of their last 3 games, and Tennessee went on a 5-0 run. And the difference here is that Indiana had to play Penn State and Michigan, and Tennessee essentially played the worst in the whole SEC. Like Vanderbilt, I mean, like teams like Missouri, okay? UAB they played, South Carolina, a banged up Kentucky. So, not the greatest of the SEC right there, obviously, but, the spread's pretty close for reasons. Now, these teams, they're equal in yards per play. They really are. On defense, they're pretty equal as well. But motivation, I would say it's about a tie. Tennessee got to that bowl game. They had some bad years before this. Indiana's probably happy as hell to be going to Florida. I think I'm going to go with the Big Ten here, though, and because you're getting a little points. And my power ratings actually have Indiana minus 2.5. Those are mine. Some of the other ones are about equal. I like how Coach Tom Allen knows how to motivate them. If you watch Indiana play this year, they played tough. They played strong. They're just consistent 100% every single play. They try their asses off. So I think Indiana's going to edge them just from the way Tom Allen coaches. So I like them at 1.5. I took it at 1.5. It's at 2.5 now. So even better for you guys if you want to grab it. I think this is a premium play. Go ahead and snag Indiana there. January 3rd, we have the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Ohio versus Nevada, +8, over-unders 58.5. And this is more of a home game for Nevada, but really not that good of a reward for either team. I'm not exactly sure how excited these kids are to go to Boise, Idaho for their bowl game vacation this year.
Unreal.
Nevada has a net negative 1.2 yards per play. Ohio's got a positive 8. That's a 2 yard per play difference here. Okay. So normally when I see this, I jump at any spread below 10 points. But the issue that I have is how motivated will Ohio be? And Nevada's actually beat some decent teams there, and they're familiar with this Boise State field. So that's my problem. Now, both these teams' defenses were pretty bad, underperforming this year. Ohio used to have a really good defense. I think when looking at both teams, you can't really give either one the edge there, but Ohio does average 6.7 yards per play and 35 points per game. Nevada's not even near that. If motivated, I think that Ohio should be able to get 40 points here since they average 35. The question is, will Nevada score their average of 21? I think they should. So I lean Ohio -8, and I lean the over 58.5. But I'm going to watch the weather and kind of see what happens. So just some leans on that one for now. January 4th, we have the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Southern Miss versus Tulane. Tulane is laying 7 points. The total is at 56.5. Fort Worth, Texas, Amon Carter Stadium. Southern Miss is just another one of those bowl teams that's just not very good at all. I mean, not at all. They beat all the easy teams and lost to the harder teams by a margin. Tulane, they had they ended the season bad. They lost 5 of their last 6 games, but at least those teams were great. Memphis's and Navy's and all that. They're all bowl teams that they lost to. Tulane has a 0.2 net yard per play advantage, and you wouldn't think that's much, but their schedule ranks 60th in the league, while Southern Miss's schedule ranked 111th. Okay, that's why you see the spread here like 7. My power rankings have this a 10-point spread, so I like Tulane at the 7 for a little bit, but I'm going to continue to watch this spread and see where this one goes. Right now, just at the 7, it would be a 1-star premium shared play.
So hot right now.
All right, next we have the Lending Tree Bowl, Louisiana versus Miami of Ohio, plus 14, over under 55.5, played in Mobile, Alabama. Well, this is the final bowl game before the national championship, and this is a huge spread. So, I mean, this is one that you might want to miss if you have nothing better to do. But you're looking at a group of 5 team that won their conference, and they're a dog by 14 points to another group of 5 team that didn't win their conference. Because it shows you what people think of the MAC. Well, now the MAC's 4-1 here, so not exactly running out the door to fade the MAC. But, I mean, there's 2 teams that were just great in the Sun Belt, and you could have gave it either won the championship, in my opinion, the conference championship, Louisiana, Lafayette, and Appalachian State. I think both teams were far and above any team in the MAC, but they have a fantastic rushing offense at Louisiana, 6.4 yards per rush, and they actually have a pretty good defense, only allowing 20 points per game, okay? And 5.5 yards per play. Miami, they won their conference based on defense, but they have a net negative yards per play at negative 0.2. Louisiana has a monster 2.5 net yards per play. It's huge. 2.7 net right there between both teams. I think that Miami has the harder schedule, in my opinion. And so I'm not exactly rushing to the window here, but it's at 14 here. But I don't know, the MAC's doing well in bowl games here. So I think Louisiana should have the slight home field advantage being in Alabama. My power rankings have this at 12. So it's no play for me really at 14. We'll see if this thing goes up or down. It was at 14.5. It's now down to 14. At 13.5, it might be a small play on Louisiana. Now getting into the college football national championship game. So look at this spread. I mean, just look at it. 5.5 points for LSU. It's getting to 6 now. All right. That's kind of crazy. That's way more than the look-ahead lines. I mean, way more. Right? The total, 69. Juice to the over a little bit. All right? So, ask yourself, why is it at 5.5 for LSU? Why is it? Look at the power ratings, right? Let's look at the public power ratings. Ohio State number 1, Clemson number 2, LSU number 3. Look at Sagarin. Pulling it up right now. Sagarin has Ohio State number 1, Clemson number 2, and LSU number 3. LSU is about 1.3 points worse than Clemson, according to the power ratings that are just done on just straight statistics, strength of schedules factored in. Okay. On some of these ones. I have LSU 5 points better. than Clemson after my adjustment. Ohio State outgained Clemson by over 100 yards, about 117 yards. Okay. So the reason the bookmakers want the spread at 5, 5.5, 6 is because they don't want to be exposed, because the sports bettors, the sharp players, and the odds makers seen exactly the same thing that I saw during that Clemson-Ohio State game. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't have a side right now. I don't have anything on the total, but I may on the very next podcast the following Thursday. Let's get into some NFL Wildcard weekend. And we have some fantastic games. We have the Buffalo Bills versus the Texans. We have
That Hansel's so hot right now.
versus the Bills. We have the Titans versus the Patriots, and we have the Vikings versus the Saints. Okay, Lions. It's real early. Obviously, we're not doing the later pod in the week, just this one. But I do have 2 plays out of these for you. Okay, 2 plays so far. I find the Texans being favored by 3, 2.5-ish, 3 points interesting, because in most power ratings, the Texans are higher than the Buffalo Bills. So I find that very interesting where that line is. I have it, the Texans, a little above the 3 here. But, I mean, I do not like betting Bill O'Brien as a favorite, as you know. You know, he's just not the best coach in that scenario. Matter of fact, since 2016, the Houston Texans as a favorite are 12, 17, and 3. They are in the bottom 8 teams since 2016 as a favorite. So, kind of goes to show you there the whole Bill Bryan problem when this team's favorite. Since 2017, he's 8-15-2, bottom 5 as a favorite. So don't love doing that personally. So I'm going to watch this spread and think about this game a little bit longer. But right now, there's no play on it, and I have a lean to the Texans. Deshaun Watson's just that good. Sometimes he doesn't need great coaching to make great plays and win. Josh Allen, he's really impressed. He runs the ball when he has to. The Bills defense, I have to give them the nod over the Texans defense. I hear J.J. Watt might play. I find that extremely interesting. You know, I mean, the Buffalo Bills and DVOA are 6th. They're ranked 5th in all of football. The Houston Texans under DVOA are ranked 22nd. You know, so they've had their issues, but they've played better recently. So this game, I don't have a huge lean. The next game I find very strange. The New England Patriots are 4.5 points favorites at home against the Titans and Ryan Tannehill there. Mike Vrabel, ex-Patriot player, ex-Patriot coach coming into this game here. I have a play, and this spread, it tells you everything about what you learned in the stock market. Buy low, sell high. That has this game written all over it for me. It's the basic philosophy that applies to this handicap. Why is New England only priced 1 to 1.5 points better than Tennessee on a neutral field? No public power rating has it that low. None of them. Okay? You know, as a matter of fact, if you look on Sagarin, he has it at about a 6-point spread And Team Rankings power ratings have us about an 8-point spread. I have this as a 6.5 point spread in my power ratings here. And it's all because of what Miami did to New England. Now, this is a rivalry game. Miami tried their asses off. New England banged up, injured, probably wanted to just go for the motions, figured they'd win, and they ended up losing. The turnover ratio was 2-0. Okay? So this set the spread up perfectly for Patriots bettors here. All right? I mean, who would have thought that you're going to get New England at this price against the Titans at the first home game in the playoffs here? It's crazy. All right? So we know that Patriots also treat the regular season kind of as preseason sometimes too. The Titans have impressed, obviously, with the resurgence of Ryan Tannehill. And, if you look at the last 3 games, though, they played the Texans third string last game. All right. So kind of throw that out a little bit. Dying to make the playoffs. Then they played the Saints, lost by 10. And then they played the Texans the game before that at home and lost by 3. Okay? So, goes to show you that the Titans, when they stepped up in class, they weren't as good. They beat a lot of cupcakes and tomato cans, right? And was that Saints game at home? Yeah, that Saints game was at home too, where they lost by 10. Now, I know the Saints are extremely good. But still, these are the Patriots. This is Tom Brady. This is Bill Belichick. They still got James White. Edelman's going to be more healthy. They're going to find some plays to Watson. N'Keal Harry's there. They're going to figure it out. I mean, this is the best coach ever in football with the best quarterback ever. You think they're going to play the disrespected card that they love to play. Okay? So I like this. I until you prove me wrong, I'm taking the Patriots here at home, -4.5, -5. I like this all the way up to -6 personally. And I wouldn't doubt if they just kind of play fast on offense, strong defense, whip them up. This could be an easy play and an easy game for them. So loving the Patriots here. Don't get many opportunities to bet them because they're always overpriced. I'll take the 4.5 points for a 2-star premium shared play.
And so then I got a call from him saying we don't have to worry about money no more. And I said, that's good. One less thing.
Minnesota versus the New Orleans Saints is the next game I want to talk about here. And it's Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern, January 5th. And this spread's pretty big for a wild card game. Saints -8. The total is at about 48. Man, that total's interesting here. Okay. I mean, there's an obvious issue with the line and total here. My power ratings have this about a 5-point spread or 6-point spread-ish, depending upon which power ratings you look at. How the heck is this line 8? I mean, how is it 8? So you give 3, sure, about 3 to the Saints. So you have about 2 to 3 points better on a neutral field than the Vikings, and the spread is 8, past the 7. So I find that strange, but I think it's an adjustment because of Kirk Cousins. Everyone knows that when Kirk Cousins plays the big game, he tends to choke. I mean, he's 0-9 on Monday Night Football, and now he's going to have a standalone game, nationally televised, playoffs in the playoffs. So that's got to worry you a little bit. All right. Cousins, I mean, he was so bad against the Packers that I think that half the college quarterbacks could have walked in there and actually had a better game. I mean, he was missing like 5 to 6 yard passes. All right. Now, he took a week off, didn't play against the Bears, and now he's going to New Orleans. Tough atmosphere. Who dat? In the Dome. And they want revenge from not only what happened in Minnesota a couple years back with the Minnesota Miracle. But now they want revenge from what happened last year when the referees screwed them out of the Super Bowl. Okay? I have to say, I agree with the Cousins adjustment here. How can you bet them away from home? I made that mistake betting them playing the Packers on Monday night at home. I thought this was their game to do it, and I was wrong. And apparently the odds makers think so too because they're at 8. But one thing I do see is that Minnesota has the 7th-ranked defense in the league, okay, in DVOA. And they're going to show up this game. Defense travels. New Orleans, they ain't no slouch either, obviously, on defense, and teams usually don't score against them until garbage time. But that's why I think this under is the safest play here, and it's kind of like a free roll. If Cousins is his bad self, as predicted, then this total is way too high, and the Saints run the clock out in the fourth quarter. Okay? If Cousins does well for some reason, covers the spread, the total is still a little high, I think, with these defenses. You know, everyone's looking at the Saints, and they've been scoring 30, 40 points a ton this year, right? I mean, a ton. But when you look at who they played, minus the 49ers a couple weeks back, which was a complete blow-for-blow shootout, amazing game, right? Minus the 49ers, this Saints team hasn't played a real defense. Tampa Bay, one of the worst defenses in the league, played a couple times. They played Carolina when they lost their full defensive line a couple times. I mean, their stats are a little bit skewed because of that. And now it's playoff time, and they're going to have some pressure here, okay? Atlanta Falcons have a terrible defense. They scored 26 at Atlanta. All right? The Colts, decent defense, won 34-7. That game was over. That game went under. So I think the play's the under here, and I like it for 3 stars. I don't know why people think that Cousins is going to put up some points. I don't think he does. This is essentially almost a free roll. Take the under in this game. 3-star premium shared play.
Where's my money, bitch?
All right. The last game that we have to talk about is the Seahawks versus the Eagles. Seahawks are laying road chalk here, -1.5. Total is of 46. So I think I can't. The Seahawks, their defense is bad. They can get scored upon. Okay? And you've seen it. And then the Eagles are playing much better football. Even though the Giants kept up with them for 3 quarters, they're still playing a lot better football here. And that was in MetLife Stadium. But the weird thing is that the Eagles are still pretty banged up. And they still don't have Alshon Jeffrey, Darby, a few key guys back there. And they have to be extremely tired from this run that they got to the playoffs. Carson Wentz, he's playing well, living up to the whole, Nick Foles came in and did it, you weren't there type thing. He's living up to that. But we'll see in this first playoff game where the real pressure is on here. We know that Russell Wilson can score. Russell Wilson's on a somewhat short week playing the night game coming into this game, but at least he gets the later Sunday game. So I find that interesting. He's flying across the country to play this game. The travel spot is not good. That makes me not want the side that much. Okay? I'm not in love with this side. This is saying that the Seattle Seahawks are 4.5 points better. Well, I don't have Seattle 4.5 points better. I have them about 1.25 points better than the Philadelphia Eagles because Seattle's D is so bad. So that makes me think I have to lean to the Eagles, but I just don't want to bet them with all their injuries there. Ertz is so banged up. I mean, it's just really tough. And they're not, and this ain't the Giants. What I do and what I may play is the over. And the reason that is because Russell Wilson can put up some points. This is a playoff game. Both teams are going to be somewhat desperate. And we've seen the Eagles do it many times. And, they put up plenty against the Giants last week. Look at the team's pace. The Eagles actually have the most plays per game out of any team at 69 per game. And Seattle ranks 10th at 65.4 plays per game, so they play somewhat fast. The biggest problem is that these teams played each other a while ago, and that was, I believe, on November 24th, and it was 17-9. Seattle went in there and won 17-9. That was kind of when the injuries just started happening for Philly. They got some guys back. Then obviously some guys are beat up again. So the question is, will that drive this total down? That's what I care about. I don't love it at 46. I'm going to wait on this. I think the total is going to go down to about 44.5-ish, and that's when I'll probably play the over. But right now it's a lean at over 46, and so that's the only angle I can see in this game that's worth playing. And obviously, if there's anything else comes out, I will tweet it out. Follow me at the Odds Breakers. All right, my friends, that's your NFL, and there's only 4 games, obviously. So that's all we have to talk about. So now is time for
the Sharp Side of the Force.
Sharp Side of the Force is brought to you by uwager.lv. For a 50% bonus, please visit uwager and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's get into what's left in these bowl games. We'll start on the 31st here. And we're seeing some sharp money on Florida State at +4 against Arizona State. A 21% difference between percentage of bets and money. Next one we have, and a lot of these lines adjusted, obviously, throughout the time. Minnesota was at +10, and now they're at +7. So just want to throw that out there. The next one is Southern Miss. There's sharp money on them at +7 against Tulane. A 23% difference between ticket total and money. And that's really the only thing at 20%. Getting close, there's some sharp money on Wisconsin. 15% difference between ticket total and money at -2.5 to -3. And let's see what we have for sharp totals here for the rest of the college games. Sharp money on the under, Virginia Tech versus Kentucky, under 46, and 27% difference between ticket total and money. We have some sharp money on the under for Texas versus Utah, a 30% difference between ticket total and money. We have some dual action on the Oregon versus Wisconsin over 51.5. 73% of the tickets on the over, but 92% of the money is on that over. We have dual action on the Southern Miss versus Tulane over 56.5. 73% of the tickets are on the over, but 96% of the money is on the over. Oh, that last Southern Miss versus FAU, where that thing went under, and I had the over. That's all I can remember about that one. So, Louisiana Lafayette versus Miami of Ohio, under 56. A 56% difference here. 42% of the tickets are on the under, but 98% of the money, and I agree with that. These are two big defenses here, too. Lafayette's a running team. Ooh, that's an interesting looking under there. And that, I think that's about it for the sharp totals. Anything in the NFL, I do know there's a lot of dual action on the over Saints versus the Vikings. Obviously the opposite side that I talked about. 98% of the money is on the over from 47 to 48.5. It looks like I disagree with that. And there's some sharp money on the under 46, Seattle versus the Eagles. Like I said, I lean over 46, but not playing it, seeing if that number can get down to 44, 44.5-ish. But that's what you have. The over on the Titans versus Patriots, over 43.5. There's sharp money on. It's because the Titans defense is so bad. So there's some sharp NFL for you. Sharp sides in the NFL, nothing really. I mean, a little bit on the Eagles at +2, a 15% difference between sides, and totals. So that does it for the week. If you have any questions or comments, please tweet us at the Odds Breakers. If you'd like us to quick break down a game for you if we have time, would love to do that as well. You can tweet me at OBKiev. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Sure that you guys remain safe and always go and get some